So let me quickly bring this back to sort of more personal perspective to this. Now, I've heard so many, or some people, Africans, parents saying to me some of the experiences or the things that they've been hearing, regarding their children growing up here in Finland. So you, as a mom, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel? If a child, let's say a child of 7 years old or even less, tells you that, mom, some or most or people in my school, in my class, doesn't want to play with me because my skin is dark. How does that make you feel?
You know what, I mean, once again, this goes back to my training in racism as an African American. My mom grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, around the same time that Martin Luther King was shot there. So she was in his last march and this kind of thing, She grew up in an environment where that's normal, racism is normal, okay? And she had lots of experiences that when she decided to take me, and this is the whole family decision, to put me into the white schools. So they would drive me, 45 minutes out and take me to the white schools where I would be the only black kid oftentimes in my class. And that was something that she prepared me for. Like, by the way, this is, people might not be nice to you. I was in 3rd grade when I first went out that way. So, they might not be nice to you, they might not play with you, and you get the conversation, you get the talk. And unfortunately, I'm prepared to give that to my daughter if I have to, but I'd rather not have to. So when I was looking for daycares for my daughter, my husband and I, we went to different schools in the neighborhood and different places, and we checked out maybe 5 or 6 places. And there was one that was the most conveniently located. It was literally in the courtyard of where my husband works. It's not that far from where we live. It was, it's well desired and such. But the teacher who was showing us around kept referring to my daughter as foreign. It came up in conversation 3 times. And I corrected her 3 times. She was born, in Helsinki. Her dad's right there. He's actually Finnish, and this kind of thing. But she was trying to be polite and reassure us, oh, don't worry, we have lots of foreign kids here, Or, she won't be the first foreign child we've seen, and we deal with foreigners very well, and this kind of thing.
Exactly.
And that made me think, wait a second. I mean, I've told you now 3 times that she's not foreign, but you keep inserting this. You keep thinking that she is. I don't know if I want to put my child in this place. If I can't correct you in 30 minutes and you've had this, I don't want to feel like I have to think about how is she going to be treated in this place? Is she going to be made other in this place? Is she going to feel like an outcast? And we decided to put her in a different place because of that. So we put her in a private school instead. But these are things that I know I'll have to be more conscious about. And I'll try to keep her, in a place where it's not so relevant for a while. Yeah.
That's an interesting microcosm of what is happening, I imagine, all over the place in Finland and elsewhere in the world. Here is a situation where an assumption is made based on colour, resulting in the use of language, namely the word foreign. You call it out 3 times, and this is not heard.
No.
This is not heard. So this puts you in a position of choice. One is to say nothing, and one is to call it out. And you chose not to call it out. And on one level, why on earth should you have to? But I'd be interested to know why you didn't.
In the sense of correcting her, I would say calling out for me is correcting. I mean, so I would say, okay, well, no, she's from here. And to be able to say that 3 times in that sense. If after that point she doesn't get it, I would assume that the reason she doesn't get it is probably more than I would have time to address in that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So my thought is, okay, it's a 30-minute little interview kind of things, discussion, and I want to evaluate some more things to be able to see if this is a good place for her. So it kind of didn't fit within the scope of that. But yeah, it's something that I think that should be brought up, and I wonder the report that you mentioned, by the way, from the Ombudsman, they actually mentioned that education was an area where kids start to feel othered in that sense.
Yeah.
They start to feel that race becomes a factor, and at such a young age. So I'm thinking maybe some extra training then for teachers would be very relevant. Maybe helping them to understand that you can be Finnish and look like anything, you know. So that's a big thing, and to make certain that they're actually teaching and practicing the equality that's the value in this society. So I think that's something to say, okay, let's make sure that, you know, you are aware that sometimes these things are that can creep in, that these unconscious biases do creep in, but how do you treat these things? Make some protocols. Like if you see there are some kids who are different, you know, of different backgrounds, etc., make certain that you don't overlook them. Make certain that you don't expect less from them. Make certain that you call on them. Take a look at the end of your day. How many times did you call on so-and-so? You know, is that on par with the other kids? Okay. Have checklists, things like this for, you know, making certain that people are really actually following through with the good intentions that they have.
That actually points to the example that I gave earlier, that there are, you know, I don't want to generalize, but most people here tend to think that the kids that are born here are not Finns. And that's very wrong, because that's not true. You see? I mean, to have this sort of thinking that, okay, you know, foreigners and are taken care of here and all that sort of, I mean, it just tells exactly what it is here. And Emma, what do you think, I mean, children that are born here or young adults that have sort of foreign parents, right? That are sometimes or in some cases feeling that, you know, they have problem with, you know, self identity and how the society sees them. I have a case where a misraised girl here was actually saying that she's really tired, that she need to explain all the time that she is Finnish, and they don't seem to get that. What would be your sort of, you know, advice to these people, how they should, you know, respond to these sort of situations?
So these are people who feel Finnish but are not treated as such.
Yes. Or who are Finnish and they're not treated as such.
I would very much shy away from me giving them advice. Who am I to give them advice? But what I can do is look at my own kind and my people, so white folks, and try to raise awareness of the reality they are creating for others who don't look like them. Yeah, and so for example in that situation where you have 3 times said, child's not foreign, there's the Finnish dad, not foreign. Well, if I were there present, let's just think about that. You know, would it be appropriate, and this is actually a genuine question because I'm aware of white saviour things as well, would it be appropriate if I were to see that happening and to say, I noticed that my friend here has 3 times said this is not a foreign child. Can we just look at that for a second? Why are you making this assumption about foreignness? Is it based on colour of skin? And create a bit of racial discomfort there for me and my own kind. Would that be appropriate? Or how would you experience that? Would you think that was interfering, white saviour, shut up, I haven't got time for this?
No, it's
or how do you feel?
It's beneficial. I mean, to be honest, I don't engage in all of those conversations myself because it's not usually so beneficial. There are certain things that will not progress because, you know, of who I am. So it'll be like, okay, yeah, so sorry, and that's it. And it'll be an apology, and then it'll be, okay, you know, I didn't mean it that way.
The white people.
You know, kind of like, I didn't mean it that way, and they'll be, you know, kind of be like a quick thing. You don't actually resolve anything. You just end the conversation, basically. That's kind of what happens when I do that.
Right.
So in certain contexts. So I would say it's very valuable to have people like yourself put those questions out there. it makes it less safe for ignorance to slide. And I think that's a thing. So a teacher should be more open to correction, in my opinion, or open to learning. So for her to be able to realize, okay, this is actual learning opportunity for myself as well, well, that'd be great, I think that's something that should happen. Right now, it has been, for me, my thought was whether or not there's a general xenophobia or a general disconnect between what it is to be a Finn and such.
So glad you raised that.
Yeah. But I think honestly, you have children who also have different passports, right? You're
French, English, Finnish.
Exactly.
Very blonde, very white.
And I wonder if they would be called out for being foreign as well,
Yeah, they don't speak Finnish quite perfectly yet.
And so these are things where you have to think there are lots of different layers to things. So there is, for me, in my case, it is an international aspect. I am foreign. I acknowledge that. But there are different layers to things. And we have to really start thinking about, sometimes unpeeling this, What is the further distance you can get from being classically Finnish? And how does that impact your experience here? But there are degrees of this, and we have to really start considering and addressing this idea of what it means to be a Finn. And that's a thing. If we can broaden that up and change that perspective, what it means to be, what we think should be included in the society, or who should be included in the society, that's a big thing.
Can I respond to that? I'd love
Please
to.
do. Yeah.
So, my brother, white guy, did the Finnish army here, like you have to. And he felt very othered because he was the only vegetarian in the entire place.
Aww.
And he's very bohemian and dresses in a kind of Hoxton, London kind of a way. He might kill me for saying that, but he's a lot more cool than me. And so he felt very othered in the middle of nowhere in Finland in the army. In the 70s, my white English mum moved to Finland and was told in the park, go back to where you came from, stop stealing our Finnish men.
Oh.
Yeah, so things have changed since the 70s, but I think it's pertinent to your point about what is Finnishness. And you suggested, you floated the idea of broadening that. Well, actually, this concept of Finnishness, I'm wondering, could we broaden it even more? Why are we so hung up on this Finnish exceptionalism? Why is Finnishness so important? And you mentioned Finnishness earlier, and actually it put me to remembering what I've read about the abolition of slavery. As in Britain, at least, I know that one popular slogan is a Wedgwood sort of little emblem that was created of a person in chains looking up like this, saying, am I not your brother? And that really caught the zeitgeist. It became something that was printed on china and clothes and jewellery and hat pins and everywhere. And it's something that people could proclaim. And it was part of the movement that ended in the abolition of slavery as we knew it then. And so this is, for me, enlarging the question. It's about brotherhood of man. It's about humanity.
Exactly.
Can I be honest with you? I'm going to say this. I'm not an idealist, okay? I'm a pragmatist.
I can totally be an idealist. So we are in good dialogue.
This is good. This is a good thing. All right, so I personally think, yes, it's an ideal for people to be concerned and empathetic for the other. I think that takes far more work and far more time. I think realistically, it's easier, and it's an easier narrative when people are sold something about their own self-interest or about themselves, okay? This is why I think it's more impactful, more accessible to shape the narrative of saying, these people are you, versus to say, these people are other, but still valuable. I think it's just an easier leap in that sense, an easier tie.
Ubuntu, we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like these people are also part of us. We are all in the same category, same group, because it's harder to change this very ingrained mentality of tribalism, people will say, where my group is somehow, not more important than your group, or we're actually equal. That's a harder thing. It's a very psychologically ingrained thing. But what you can do is say, oh, this person is actually part of your tribe, or this person is a part of your group.
That's what for me, brotherhood is about. How do you feel about that?
Yes
sisterhood.
and no. Yes and no. I mean, I think yes, but there's also some distance as well.
Is that your question to Emma? I mean, to Laura?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I think brotherhood or sisterhood is an interesting. This concept of fraternity. That's an interesting concept. But once again, the individual is a very powerful thing. I also come from a country which is very individualistic, so keep that in mind. But so, for instance, in a corporate context, it's easier to sell the notion of this is good for the company, this is good for the bottom line, this is good for us, as a company, than it is to say this is good for my fellow man, or for mankind. I think that's a big jump. It's a larger jump that not everybody is prepared to take. So, yeah.
So in closing, right, do you have any question for Emma?
That makes it sound like I'm an authority.
No,
Can you do it the other way around?
No, it will go both ways. I think it will go both
We're
ways.
all authorities in our own perspectives, right?
Yeah, in my own little head.
I guess you have one. If you do, then please.
No, I mean, I would say, maybe not necessarily a question right now, but I mean, I would love to continue a dialogue. And once again, as a pragmatist, think about some pragmatic ways of collaborating and saying, hey, let's see some ways of changing a reality. I think that's an important thing. And I'd love to be able to bounce ideas off of you and vice versa, and we could think about some ways for that. But yeah, not just changing awareness and such, but it's also good to think about how can we change realities.
So Emma, do you have any question?
We're just violently agreeing here.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much. Thanks. I think we've actually come to the end of this discussion. So in closing, I think I want to thank everyone out there that have tuned in for this episode of Wake Up Concept. I think for me, fear is the only thing that make us want to stay comfortable where we are. But in order to do something meaningful, not just to ourselves but to people around us, we need to at some point try to be a bit courageous to take that step to actually be a little bit uncomfortable. Because when that happens, and most especially the topic that we're having today, that has to do with discrimination against black people in Finland, I think love is what we need. And I encourage every one of you to just keep in mind that we don't want to actually create another generation of victims in Finland, and this is why this is important, that we step out of our comfort zone to do whatever we can to make this place a better place for everyone. So thank you, and I hope we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you guys. It was really good having you guys today, and I'm so happy that you're able to come.